What's going on, YouTubers? This is Buddy coming at you another quick video. Today we're going to talk about RTN and STN. RTN stands for rapid tissue necrosis. STN stands for slow tissue necrosis. Now, it's not fully understood why SPS corals come down with this. Acropores come down with it more than others for some odd reason, but it's not fully understood. And generally, anything you hear is pretty much just theory. Now I'll tell you kind of like the general accepted theory, and then I'll tell you how you can go about trying to save the coral or deal with this. Now, the general accepted theory is that it's a bacterial infection. It's called a strand of Vibrio bacteria. Vibrio is spelled V-I-B-R-I-O. It's a bacteria that gets on the coral and causes the coral to go into STN or RTN. You know, causes that infection to set in. And that's just theory. There's no proof. And the bacteria is carried through the water column through sediment and things like that. And then it gets on the coral. This bacteria gets on the coral and causes this infection. Now, RTN is rapid tissue necrosis. This happens very fast. The flesh from the coral recedes from the skeleton structure very fast. Slow tissue necrosis, this happens very slowly. The flesh recedes from the skeleton structure very slowly. The bigger the coral, the longer it can take, but generally it's between a few days to a week, up to a month, for the whole coral to eventually be pitch white as if it was bleached out. Now, a way that you can battle it, and the general accepted theory on how to battle it, is to take the coral out, dip it in a solution like Coral RX or iodine, and then quarantine the coral in a quarantine tank with good flow and strong lighting. Now, the idea of quarantining is to keep the infection, the bacteria, from spreading to the other corals, and I guess it's just easier to take the coral out and dip it and put it back, and to monitor the coral. I've done that in the past, and I was not successful. I ended up losing the whole coral. What I do is I actually frag the coral up. I take fragments from the coral. Now I cut the coral right where the good flesh is, right above that. I start taking my frags. I don't cut it close to where the white skeleton is, where it's already disintegrated off the skeleton structure. I want to go above that where the good flesh is and go a little bit above that and take my fragments. And then I give it an iodine bath. I always dip it in iodine. And then I glue them to frag plugs and I put them back in the tank. And I've been very successful with saving some of the frags doing that over the years. This particular time I wasn't. The entire Montipora died off. My Monty, he was on that rock over there in the corner. I'll give you a close-up real fast and show you. But I had that frag for about a year, and it grew into a nice-sized coral. It was about 6 inches all the way around. So I was pretty bummed out when it died. Now, what I did was I took samples of my water to the lab, and I took 2 pieces of the frag, piece where the skeleton was already receding, or the coral was already receding, the flesh, and a good part of the coral. Took 2 frags to the lab for examination. The water quality came back great. All my trace elements were good. Everything was good. There's still, not all of the results came back yet on the corals, on the frags. They're still examining them. So I can't give you any further evidence on that because I don't yet have it. They're still examining them. I don't have all the results back yet. But when I do get all the results back, I will put it in the subtitles or put it in the comments below, or maybe I'll just do a second video just touching on it a little bit. But you can Google this and you'll probably get 10 different theories. But again, it's just all theory. Now, you definitely do want to dip the coral in some type of iodine or Coral RX, some type of solution to try to battle this infection. And like I said, I just frag it up. I don't feel that a quarantine tank is necessary because if it is a strand of Vibrio bacteria, it's already in the water column. So putting it in a quarantine tank to stop the spread of the infection would be kind of silly, because if that was the case, it's already in the water. So quarantining the coral that's already infected, what good is that going to do? The other corals are still at risk, right? That's what I would assume. Now, I've never had any issues where it spread to other corals, where I've lost more than one or a couple corals from this so-called bacteria. But, you know, if you're worried about it in any way, quarantining is definitely an option, and that is something you should do if you're worried about it. I am not worried about it. Like I said, I just fragged the coral up. I've no longer tried to save the whole coral because it's never worked out well for me. Fragging the coral was the only way I was ever able to save it, and I just dip them in iodine. I don't use any Coral RX solutions or anything like that. Now, if you're treating for flatworms or red bugs or Montipora eating nudibranchs or something like that, then yes, you'd want to dip in a solution like Coral RX, and you'd want to quarantine that coral, or possibly quarantine all your corals, that any SBS or Montiporas or whatever parasite you're dealing with. That's a completely different scenario than this so-called infection. And like I said, it's all theory. There's no real proof. It's not fully understood why they come down with this. That's just a general accepted theory that it's a strand of Vibrio bacteria that causes this infection. Again, it's just theory. Alright guys, I hope these thoughts help a little bit. You know, like I said, if you Google it, you'll probably get 10 different theories. So if anybody's trying to argue with me in the comments below, I'm not going to bother, because it's all just theory. And that's the general accepted theory. But if you guys have any other ways that you deal with it, or any ways that you've been successful, please share it. You know, we're always willing to hear other hobbyist opinions and share their success. This particular time, my Montipora, none of the frags lived, nothing. They all completely just receded away. So I didn't have luck this particular time, but 98% of the time I was successful fragging them. Alright guys, this is Buddy signing out. Happy reefing.